Congratulations on signing your first deal. How's it feel?
It's a dream come true. It's been real fun ever since we signed, so I'm looking forward to it.
In early February 2012, Jeremy Lin's story didn't look like the beginning of a sports fairy tale. Instead, it looked like the final chapter of a failed career. Sleeping on his brother's couch, uncertain of his future, and close to being waived yet again, Lin was living the harsh reality of NBA life on the fringe. His days with the New York Knicks seemed numbered, and his agent made that brutally clear, warning him that if he didn't deliver in the upcoming game, it might be his last in the league. Injuries had decimated the Knicks' backcourt, leaving head coach Mike D'Antoni with no choice but to turn to his untested fourth-string point guard. Lin, who had barely played up until that point, was inserted into the rotation out of sheer desperation. But what followed shocked the league. On February 4th, Lin erupted for 25 points against the Nets, leading the Knicks to a critical win and igniting what would become one of the most improbable breakout runs in sports history. It wasn't just a good game. It was the moment the world met Jeremy Lin, not as a benchwarmer, but as a star in the making. From there, the myth of Linsanity was born. But to understand just how wild this rise was, one has to look back at everything Lin had to overcome to even get a foot in the door. Jeremy Lin's journey to the NBA was anything but conventional. Despite leading Palo Alto High School to a 32-1 record and a state championship against powerhouse Mater Dei, Lin received no Division I scholarship offers. He had grown up just across the street from Stanford University, yet the school never seriously recruited him. Neither did UCLA, USC, or any other major program. Lin had the grades, the character, and the stats, but none of that mattered. Coaches saw an undersized, 6 feet 1 inch Asian American point guard and dismissed him without much thought. His efforts to get noticed were tireless, sending out highlight reels, game tapes, and even reaching out to programs directly. Still, silence. Ultimately, Harvard, known more for academics than basketball, took a chance on Lin. While Harvard didn't offer athletic scholarships, the opportunity was meaningful. Lin made the most of it. Over his college career, he grew into one of the most complete players in the Ivy League, improving year after year. By his junior and senior seasons, he was putting up elite stats across the board, dropping 30 points on UConn and earning attention from national media. Yet when it came time for the 2010 NBA draft, Lin wasn't selected. Again, he was passed over, viewed as too slight, too slow, and too unconventional for the NBA. It became clear that stereotypes, not his skill, were standing in his way. Following his draft snub, Jeremy Lin kept pushing. The Golden State Warriors offered him a chance based largely on his performance in Summer League with the Dallas Mavericks. Lin had put together a solid run, averaging 9.8 points while shooting over 54% from the field. He received offers from multiple teams but chose the Warriors, his hometown squad. However, he found himself buried deep on the bench behind stars like Stephen Curry and Monta Ellis. In his rookie season, Lin appeared in just 29 games and averaged fewer than 3 points per contest. But instead of sulking, he went to work. During the 2011 lockout, Lin completely transformed his game. He rebuilt his jump shot from the ground up, added significant muscle mass, and dramatically improved his athleticism, boosting his vertical leap and lateral quickness. Still, none of that guaranteed him a spot. When the lockout ended, the Warriors waived Lin to make room for a potential trade. The Houston Rockets picked him up, but he was cut again before the season began. Now unemployed and unsure of his future, Lin was quickly learning just how cold and transactional the NBA could be. Despite his improvements and undeniable work ethic, he couldn't catch a break. When the New York Knicks picked up Jeremy Lin off waivers in late December 2011, it was done quietly and without fanfare. They needed depth at the point guard position after Baron Davis and Iman Shumpert were sidelined with injuries. Lin wasn't brought in to lead a team, he was an emergency backup. He barely played during his first 9 games in New York, averaging just 6 minutes per appearance. In practice, he was mostly a spectator, standing to the side while established players took all the reps. Yet Lin never stopped preparing. He was often the first player in the gym and the last one to leave. No matter how little time he saw on the court, he kept himself ready. At the time, the Knicks were sitting at an underwhelming 8-15, and the pressure was building. Coach D'Antoni was searching for a spark. With nothing left to lose, he handed the keys to Lin in a game against the Nets. The result was explosive and completely unexpected. Lin Lin's energy, poise, and control of the game instantly changed the Knicks' chemistry. What started as a desperation move quickly began to look like a revolution. Jeremy Lin had finally been given a real chance, and he made it count. After his breakout against the Nets, Lin was named a starter in the very next game against the Utah Jazz. With Carmelo Anthony injured and Amare Stoudemire absent due to a family tragedy, Lin took control. He scored 28 points and dished out 8 assists, proving the previous game was no fluke. His confidence grew with each possession. Then came Washington. Lin squared off against John Wall, one of the league's fastest guards, and once again dominated the floor, putting up 23 points and 10 assists. By now, the media had caught on. Linsanity became the headline on every major sports outlet. But Lin wasn't just getting coverage, he was backing it up on the court. His performance, poise, and leadership were elevating a struggling Knicks team. Then came a showdown with the Lakers and Kobe Bryant, who had casually dismissed the Lin hype. That night, Jeremy silenced every critic, torching the Lakers for a career-high 38 points, along with 7 assists and 2 steals. He even hit a dagger 3 in front of the Lakers bench. Overnight, Lin became the face of the league. From Sports Illustrated covers to international headlines, the Linsanity wave was unstoppable. As Lin's performances piled up, so did the media frenzy. He wasn't just a feel-good story anymore, he was a global sensation. His jersey sold out across the country. Madison Square Garden was packed with fans wearing his number 17 shirt. His name trended daily on social media. But it was deeper than just basketball. Lin became a symbol, especially for Asian Americans who had never seen someone like him thrive at the highest level in a sport that had long excluded them from serious representation. Lin handled it all with humility, constantly deflecting praise and crediting his teammates and faith. He showed poise not just on the court, but in interviews, press conferences, and late-night appearances. He was suddenly everywhere, from ESPN to CNN. He had become more than an athlete. He was a cultural moment, challenging perceptions of what an NBA star could look like. It wasn't just his points per game, it was what he represented. One of Lin's most iconic moments came against the Toronto Raptors. The game was tied in the final seconds. Knicks fans and players alike looked to Lin, who by this point had become their trusted closer. He calmly waved off screens and dribbled to the top of the key. Then, with less than a second of hesitation, he launched a deep 3. It sank clean. Game over. That shot didn't just win the game, it crystallized the moment. Lin was no longer a nice story. He was the guy you gave the ball to when the game was on the line. It was a superstar moment. His teammates mobbed him. The arena, though in Toronto, erupted. By this point, Linsanity was no longer limited to New York. It was international. In countries across Asia, Lin was a hero. He had become one of the most talked about players in the world, and it had all happened in less than 2 weeks. Unfortunately, fairy tales rarely last forever. Despite his success, Lin's position wasn't secure. When the Knicks fired coach D'Antoni, who had tailored the offense around Lin's strengths, his replacement Mike Woodson installed a different system that minimized Lin's role. Lin's numbers dipped. Then came a torn meniscus, sidelining him for the remainder of the season. Even with the injury, Lin finished with 18.5 points and 7.6 assists per game over his stretch as a full-time player, leading the Knicks to a 16-10 record during that span. His impact on the franchise's playoff push was undeniable. Yet as the off-season arrived, so did difficult decisions. As a restricted free agent, Lin received a lucrative offer from the Houston Rockets, a 3-year, $25 million deal with a heavily backloaded final year, known as a poison pill contract designed to make it financially difficult for the Knicks to match. Despite Lin's popularity and performance, the Knicks declined to match the offer. Just like that, after changing the culture of the team and city in a matter of weeks, Lin's time in New York ended. He went to Houston, where he played well, averaging 13 points and 5 assists, but was never given the same platform. He spent the next few years bouncing between teams, including stints with the Lakers, Hornets, Nets, Hawks, and Raptors. While he never regained the heights of Linsanity, he remained a solid contributor, smart, efficient, and always professional. Jeremy Lin may have only had a short reign as the NBA's brightest star, but his impact went far beyond the box score. He was the first American-born NBA player of Chinese or Taiwanese descent to take over the league's spotlight. He inspired a generation of Asian American athletes, challenged racial stereotypes, and reminded the sports world that talent and determination often go unnoticed in the shadow of bias. In 2019, Lin became the first Asian American to win an NBA championship as part of the Toronto Raptors. Today, he continues to play overseas and remains a symbol of possibility. He never asked for the fame and at times even rejected it. But for millions, Jeremy Lin was proof that greatness doesn't always come from where we expect, and that sometimes all someone needs is a chance.